welcome back. As you can see, this week we got Knox joining us for the intro. This week we're going to do an original butt monkey pattern. This pattern was developed by Scott Smith originally, and then what can I help you with? Oh my, what a card. Like I was saying, originally it was designed by Scott Smith. He did it without lead eyes, without any weight to it. And afterwards, Kelly Galloup went through, put lead eyes on it, and then he also articulated it. Here in a couple weeks we'll probably get to the articulated version of the butt monkey. But I figured we'd go with the original pattern first. We're going to do this in black today. I've seen it in tan, black, olive, white. Trying to think if I'm missing anything here. Tan, black, olive, and white I think are the most common ones. In the olive and tan version, I have one here. This is one with the lead eyes. Did the yellow and olive tail stacked. On the black, I'm just going to go with all one color. So starting with just our tail, just as with most streamers, we go one stack, throw some flash in, and then another stack on top of that. For our hook today, we're using a Daiichi 2461. This is a size 2. And line up your second plume of marabou, and then right to the back. As always, right where the barb of the hook starts to ascend, that's where I stop my thread. That's where I stop tying materials off, just to have some consistency throughout my flies. It's always good to have reference points. So then next up, we will just take our marabou up to the front, tying it off, just for a little bit of extra bulk added in. And I'm forgetting the main material here, so let me get this out before we get too much further down the road. If that will work, maybe. So we'll spin this forward, and then next up we're going to take, this is just some black Astaz, a little bit flashier than regular chenille. I want to say that this was what the original was done with, but don't quote me on this. I don't know for certain. I'm fairly certain it is, but not 100%. Anyhow, that's what we're using today, so give it 2 good wraps, quick pull, one more spin, and then we're going to tie this off temporarily. We're not going to cut it, we're just going to tie it off, get it out of our way. There, we got it on the back side, we're good. Now I'm going to measure this out and see if it's going to work. It's going to be short. Go figure. Thought I'd get lucky and be able to use a excess piece that I had laying around there, but that's hardly ever the case, isn't it? So what we have now is just a Magnum rabbit strip in black. It's inch as opposed to 1/8 inch is what you normally see. So you want, this just gives it a little bit of extra bulk, a little bit more movement. So you can see where I have my marabou ends right here. Probably give it about another 1/2 inch to the end of your rabbit strip. And what you're going to do is just pull this back and let me get that situated. Kind of pull that back so your thread has a nice path to travel without trapping anything. Give it a semi-tight wrap. One more on top of that. Make sure that everything's straight down the hook, everything looks good. And now what I'll do is I'll come right in front of that and then I'll really cinch down. With this gel spun, as you come in front of that and you pull tight, it's also going to pull your back, these wraps that you use to trap your fibers in, it will pull them tight as well, but this builds a lot less bulk this way. Less thread wraps, less bulk, a lot easier to work with. So now what I want to do is just come through here. I'm going to measure this out right where I want it to stop and where I'm going to start my head, and I'm just going to cut this, get it out of the way right now. Right there, it's going to look pretty good. That'll do. Now we can peel this up, and if you want you can leave it a little bit longer right there, but I think we have it pretty well settled. Now you're just going to go right in front of your trimmed piece and just make a couple of wraps. Wrap that right up to the front. Take this and trim it off. Now, stretch that. Easy. Hey, it's enough. Something's going on outside. Right in front. Give that a nice stretch and pull it. So there you can see you have a nice transition. It's seamless from where we tied it in the back to where it is now. You can't tell where our thread wraps are. The only thing that I will do, because it's tough, I mean this Astaz is a little bit thicker than I'd like to use, but it does do the trick. I mean, it still looks good. I like the stuff that's just a little bit thinner. That way you can get closer with your wraps and not have to worry about trapping anything or having gaps. But what I will do after the fact, there's a little piece of white where my thread wasn't covered up right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'll just take a Pantone or whatever marker I have and touch that up. But to finish this off, it's just a regular wool head, and I almost skipped this step. I overlook this step more than any step on any other pattern. And I put it right in front of me so I wouldn't miss it this time, and I almost did. This is just a collar, little throat. Gonna be a red collar for us. And I'm glad I caught myself, because I wouldn't have allowed myself to publish the video had I forgot this, so I would have been reshooting. So that's all it is right there, just real quick. Just take some red Sanyo's laser dub, tie it in. If you've watched the 10-2 video, there's one or two other that I use this collar on, and then just give it a quick trim, kind of brush it back. There you go. But yeah, very simple to tie in, very quick, easy process. Just Don't forget it like I normally do. And now, to finish this, we're just going to go with a wool head. And if you've watched the Kitty, the Boogeyman, I think those are the only two I've done so far that have a wool head. It's the exact same thing, only we're not going around any lead eyes on this one. So, I'm just going to take this 2 wraps, come in front, pull tight. Where's the good stuff at here? I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on doing this wool head because I addressed this one in a separate video on tying wool heads, how to get them to look good. So we're just going to bypass a lot of this, a lot of the details, and we're just going to get it spun up and hopefully done in a decent amount of time here. Now the last thing I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to get one more piece in here, and it's going to be a little bit thicker. Trim the tips off. Scissors tried falling apart on me there. And clean up your wool. And we're just going to throw this right over top. If I can get my fingers to work for me here, we will. 1, 2 wraps. Peel this back. And we'll whip finish. Get our thread cut, and before I go trimming this head up, we're just going to color up our thread. Just touch it real quick with a black marker. I got black Prismacolor marker here. Grab our bodkin. As I explained in the video I did on tying wool heads, I think this is probably the most important part. It's tough to pick a part that's most important, but this step right here is vital, I think, to having a good, clean looking wool head. You cannot over clean this stuff. So just take your time, go through, pick this out real nice. And we're ready to start trimming. So just, as always, find your center, make a vertical cut. And with the bottom, I tend to cut these pretty quick. I just find a clump of it, find where I like it. Try not to cut your laser dub. God blessed scissors. There we go. Now on this top, I don't get real aggressive. I start getting the overall shape of the fly, getting the overall shape of the head, rather. And I like these to be bulkier. I do. I don't like trimming them down so far to where it's hardly recognizable, because, as I've explained before, it's imitating the sculpin, and sculpins have a big, fat, wide head. So you want to try to... I tend to over-exaggerate that sometimes on these patterns. I just like the way that it looks a lot more than, you know, a real sparse, thin head. So... now I'll go a little bit further, kind of dress this up a little bit more. You get the overall idea of what we're going for, but I'm just going to continue to clean this up a little bit. Grab this out of the vise. And just continue trimming. We're going to call it at that. I'll trim it up a little bit further, but I mean, you get the idea. I mean, I've already done these videos for trimming the wool heads to give you more detail. I mean, I don't need to take up any more of your time. We have the fly completed, so there is the original Scott Smith butt monkey without the lead eyes that Kelly added. Like I said, later on, I'll wind up doing the articulated one that Kelly came up with. That's a phenomenal fly to fish, so much motion. But this is the original from Scott Smith again. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next fly.